Desmond was a billionaire who swore never to love again after losing his wife. His mother made one rule clear: no poor woman would ever enter their family. But then he met Clara, a humble yet stubborn schoolteacher he just couldn't resist. What happens when love collides with pride? Will his mother stand in the way, or will Desmond fight for the woman who stole his heart? Find out in this unforgettable story. No poor woman must ever enter this family as a wife. Desmond's mother repeated it often, her voice like thunder at the dining table. "Desmond," she warned one evening, her rings clicking against her wineglass, "if you ever think of remarrying after your late wife, let it be someone of class, a woman with power, not some ordinary nobody." All eyes turned to Desmond, the billionaire, the gentleman who, despite his empire, never raised his voice. He simply smiled faintly and continued eating, ignoring the storm in the space. Then he stood up and adjusted his tie. That morning, Desmond was going somewhere he usually never went. His daughter Leah's school had called for a meeting, and for the first time, Desmond decided to attend. When his black Rolls-Royce rolled into the school compound, everyone gathered. Parents whispered, teachers fixed their hair, and even the headmistress nearly tripped in her heels as she rushed forward. That's him, the billionaire. But while every eye was on Desmond, one woman didn't move. Clara. She was in one corner, kneeling quietly as she helped a small boy struggling with his shoe. She didn't even raise her head. She didn't rush to greet him. She didn't act as if the ground had opened just because a billionaire had walked past. And that was the moment Desmond noticed her. All through the meeting, his eyes kept drifting back to her, the woman who didn't seem moved by his presence. Unlike the others, who always tried to force themselves into his space, Clara was calm, gentle, and breathtaking in her own quiet way. Desmond stayed to the end of the meeting, but he never approached her. And Clara? She had no idea that someone was watching her closely, admiring her every move. After the meeting, he returned home quietly. At dinner that evening, his mother asked, "So, how was the school?" Desmond was lost in thought. His spoon rested in the soup, untouched. His mind was not in the mansion. It was still back in that school with the quiet teacher. "Desmond!" His mother's sharp voice snapped him out of it. He raised his head slowly. It went fine. Everything was fine. The next morning, Desmond shocked his household. He announced he would personally take Leah to school. The maids exchanged glances. His siblings raised brows. His mother frowned. This was the same man who had never wasted a second of office time, not even for family matters. Yet now, here he was, buttoning his suit jacket before sunrise. In the car, Leah looked at him with curiosity. "Daddy, why are you taking me to school today? You never do." "I'm sorry, my darling. I will start taking you now." Leah giggled, her face full of surprise and joy. Desmond dropped her off and kissed her forehead. "I'll come and pick you after school," he said, his eyes quietly searching for Clara. But he didn't see her, so he drove back to his office. That afternoon, Desmond did something he had never done before. He left his office early. His workers whispered among themselves as he walked out. "Is he sick?" one asked. "He never leaves before 7 p.m., another said, eyes wide. But Desmond ignored them. He was going to pick up Leah from school. When Leah saw her father's car waiting by the gate, she ran into his arms. "Daddy, you came again," she said, her small arms wrapping around his waist. "Yes, my darling," Desmond said softly, lifting her into the car. "Let's go home."
He drove her home, dropped her with the nanny, but instead of staying, he turned the car around and went back to the school. His driver looked at him in surprise through the rearview mirror, but said nothing. Desmond sat in the back seat, waiting. His hand tapped slowly against the leather seat. His eyes never left the school gate. Minutes turned into an hour. Students ran out. Teachers left one by one, but not her. And then, finally, Clara appeared. She walked out slowly, holding her bag in one hand, balancing a pile of papers in the other. Her steps were tired, but graceful. She didn't rush. She didn't even look around. Desmond's heart thudded in his chest. He stepped out of his car. "Miss Clara," he called gently. Clara stopped, startled. Her eyes widened a little when she saw him, but she quickly adjusted her face. "Good evening, sir." "I waited to see you," Desmond admitted, his deep voice calm. "Waited? For me? Why?" Desmond took a small step closer. "Because I wanted to know you, to thank you for the way you care for the children, for Leah." Clara shifted the papers in her arms, her lips pressing together. "Sir, you don't need to thank me. It's my job. I do it for every child." Her voice was polite, but her tone carried stubbornness, like a wall she was building. Desmond noticed, and instead of being offended, he smiled faintly. "Then allow me to carry those papers," he offered, reaching for them. Clara pulled them back slightly. "No, thank you. I can manage." For a moment, they stood there, her holding tight, him looking at her with patience. Then he chuckled softly. "You don't like help, do you?"
he asked. Clara raised her chin a little. "I don't like unnecessary attention, sir, especially from people like you." Desmond turned his head, his smile growing. "People like me?" "Billionaires," she said bluntly. "Men who are used to getting anything they want." There was silence between them. Clara expected him to be offended, to walk away, but Desmond only nodded slowly. "Maybe you're right. I usually get what I want, but maybe this time I will wait, even if it takes long." Clara blinked, surprised by his words. She didn't know what to say, so she clutched her papers tighter, muttered a quick "good evening," and walked away. Desmond watched her go, his heart strangely light. For the first time in years, he had found someone who refused him, and that made him want her even more. That evening, in his mansion, Desmond sat alone in his study room, his laptop open in front of him. For a man who sealed million-dollar deals every week, it was strange to see him typing into a search bar, "How do you make a woman smile?" He scrolled through answers. Some said, "Tell jokes." Others said, "Take her out on a date." But one answer caught his eyes. "Send her flowers, a gift that speaks without words." Desmond leaned back in his chair and sighed. It felt foolish, almost childish, but at the same time it gave him hope. He had lost his wife years ago. The pain never truly left. He had promised himself never to fall in love again. But here he was, searching for ways to make a stubborn teacher smile. The next morning, before Clara even got to school, a delivery man placed a fresh bouquet of red and white roses on her desk. Along with it came a small box tied with a ribbon and a simple white card tucked inside. Clara stood staring at them. The flowers smelled sweet, filling the whole room with their fragrance. She didn't need to open the card to know who sent them. Only one man in this city would dare. She touched the petals softly, then pulled her hand back as if the roses were dangerous. She carried the flowers to the window and stared at them for a long time. The children in her class giggled. "Teacher, who gave you flowers?" one asked. Clara smiled faintly, shaking her head. "It's nothing. Let's start our lesson." She was afraid, not of him, but of his love. A billionaire who already had everything. What could he possibly want from her? She didn't want to be used. She didn't want to be another woman who got lost in his world of wealth and power. So she placed the flowers gently into the trash bin, along with the gift and the card, without ever reading it. That night, in his mansion, Desmond sat in his study room, the light from the lamp casting a glow on his face. His phone lay on the desk beside him. He had written his number on that card. He had written words he hadn't shared with any woman since his wife died. "Call me, Clara, just once." But the phone never rang. By midnight, he leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. A soft, sad laugh escaped his lips. "Desmond, you can control the world, but you can't even win one woman's smile."
He closed his eyes, memories of his late wife flooding in. The day he lost her, he had promised himself never to love again. He had built walls around his heart, high, cold walls. Yet here he was, searching for ways to make a school teacher notice him. The next morning, he didn't stop. Another bouquet arrived at Clara's desk, roses, another small box, and another card. But her hands trembled as she picked up the flowers. The scent filled the room, sweet and gentle, but her heart felt heavy. She placed them aside. Day after day the gifts came, roses, lilies, each one with a card, each one carrying his hope. The other teachers began to whisper behind her back. The children clapped and laughed whenever a new delivery came. Still, Clara never opened a single note. But what she didn't know was this. Each night, Desmond sat awake, waiting for a call that never came. It was no longer about wealth. It was no longer about power. For Desmond, it had become about love, something he could not even explain. The one woman who dared to resist him, the one woman who refused to be moved by his name or his riches, was the only woman his heart longed for. And Clara's resistance? Instead of stopping him, it only drew him closer. The more she pushed him away, the more he found himself wanting her smile, her voice, her heart. One evening, after picking Leah from school, Desmond told his driver to wait. He sat quietly in the back seat, watching the gate. He didn't know why, but something in him wanted to see Clara one more time that day. Minutes passed. Then she came out. Clara held her worn-out bag tightly, her steps quick like someone who wanted to escape the world. The sunset lit her face in a soft glow. Desmond's chest tightened. Before he could stop himself, he stepped out of the car. Clara froze when she saw him. "Sir, what are you doing here?" she asked, her tone sharp. Desmond gave a small smile. "Waiting for someone?" She sighed, rolling her eyes. "If you're waiting for me, then you're wasting your time. I'm not interested in all this." But instead of being offended, Desmond chuckled. "Clara, do you think I'm a man who wastes his time?" Her lips parted as if to answer, but she had no words. She turned away quickly and began walking. Desmond followed slowly, not too close, not too far. "You can throw away the flowers, the gifts, even the notes, but one thing you can't throw away is the truth. My heart wants you."
Clara stopped. Her fingers tightened on the strap of her bag. The street was quiet, just their voices hanging in the air. She finally turned back, her eyes softer than before. For the first time, she didn't argue, she didn't hiss. She just whispered, almost too low for him to hear. "Why me, Desmond?" He stepped closer. "Because you're the only one who looks at me like I'm human, not like a billionaire." For a moment, Clara's wall cracked. She didn't smile, but she also didn't walk away. That was the first night she let him walk beside her, even if she didn't say a word. Before they parted ways, Desmond reached into his pocket and held out a small white card. His voice was calm, almost pleading. "Clara, if you ever feel like talking, call me. No pressure. Just call." Clara looked at the card for a long time. She almost refused, but something in her hand moved before her mind could stop it. She took it. That night, Clara stared at the card on her table. The number glowed under the lamp. Her heart beat fast. She told herself not to do it, but at midnight her finger dialed. "Hello?" Desmond's deep voice came through. Clara almost cut the call, but then she said softly, "It's me." Desmond smiled in the dark of his room. "Clara." That one word sounded like relief, like joy, like hope. They talked for hours about Leah, about life, about books. Desmond's laughter came so easily, Clara almost forgot this was the same man the whole city feared. At the end of the call, he asked gently, "Can I see you? Not at school, not in the street, somewhere quiet, just you and me." Clara hesitated, then whispered, "Fine. Just once." The next Saturday, they met in a garden on the outskirts of the city. It was calm, filled with flowers and birds singing. No cameras, no workers, just them. They sat on a wooden bench under a wide tree. For the first time, Clara looked at him without fear, without suspicion. They talked, they laughed. Desmond told her things he had never told anyone, not even his family, about the pain of losing his wife, about how he swore never to love again, about how she had broken that vow without even trying. Clara's eyes softened. She felt his honesty. Finally, Desmond turned to her, his voice low but sure. "Clara, will you be my girlfriend?" She froze. For a moment, she wanted to say no, the way she always did, but her heart betrayed her lips. She nodded slowly. "Yes."
Desmond's chest rose with relief. He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away this time. But what they didn't know was a phone camera was rolling. Someone had been watching. Someone had been waiting. And soon, the whole world would know. The night in the garden was supposed to remain their secret, but secrets, once seen, become fire in other people's hands. 3 days later, Desmond's empire shook. The video of him and Clara, hand in hand, eyes locked under the garden lights, was everywhere. Billionaire Desmond caught with his daughter's teacher. At Desmond's mansion, the press camped outside his gate, their cameras flashing, their voices sharp. "Mr. Desmond, is it true? Did you buy her love? Are you replacing your late wife with a school teacher?" Desmond slammed the car door and stormed inside. His daughter, Leah, innocent and confused, looked up at him. "Daddy, why are they saying bad things about Miss Clara? Did she do something wrong?" His heart broke. He knelt, pulling Leah close. "No, my princess. She did nothing wrong. She only gave you love, and she gave me too." Inside his mansion it was worse. His mother's face was hard, her words sharper than a knife.
You will never marry that low-life teacher. Your late wife was a lawyer, respected, educated. And now, this." His sisters shook their heads and said, "She doesn't even belong in our world. People are already laughing at you." But Desmond didn't answer. His jaw tightened, his eyes cold. Without a word, he turned away and walked into his room. In the school compound, Clara became the center of ridicule. Some whispered behind her, others mocked her openly. Is this how she teaches, using lessons to climb into the billionaire's heart? Another parent spat bitterly. Shameless, pretending to love children but chasing their fathers. Clara's hands trembled as she packed her books. Tears blurred her sight, but she refused to cry in front of them. The pressure grew heavy, pressing down on both of them. That night, Clara sat alone in her room. She couldn't take it anymore. The whispers, the stares, the judgment. With shaky hands, she picked up her phone and called Desmond. "Desmond, we can't do this anymore." Her voice cracked. "I can't breathe. Everyone thinks I'm using you. Maybe they're right." There was silence on the other end. Then his voice came, low but firm. "No, Clara. I will fight," he whispered into her ear. "I will fight everyone, Clara. Just don't give up on me. Please, give me time to fix this. I'll protect you. Just don't walk away. Not now." But the very next morning, things grew worse. Desmond's mother, realizing her son was not ready to back down, went straight to Clara's small house. She arrived in her chauffeur-driven car, stepped out in her heavy jewelry, and walked straight into Clara's living room. Without a word of kindness, she placed a box on the table. Inside was money, more than Clara had ever seen at once. "I know what you want. It's money. Take it. Leave my son. Because listen to me, he will never marry a low-life like you." Clara's hands shook as she looked at the box. Tears filled her eyes. Slowly, with trembling fingers, she pulled the box closer to herself. To Desmond's mother, it was agreement. Days passed, and no one saw Clara with the billionaire again. Whispers spread like wildfire. Some people were happy, some were sad, but most agreed on one thing. "The pressure got to him," they said. "The billionaire has ended it." And Clara? No one knew where she went. Some said she left town in shame. Others claimed he paid her off to disappear. Slowly, the noise died down. People moved on. The gossip faded. Everyone thought the storm had passed, and that they had conquered his love.
Months passed. Then one morning, news broke. Desmond announces his wedding. The city shook with excitement. A billionaire wedding! Who was the bride? His mother's face lit with relief. "This woman," Desmond said, "is coming from outside the country." "Good," his mother whispered, smiling. "At least it's not Clara." The wedding day arrived. Cameras flashed, guests filled the hall, and the world watched. A rose-gold Rolls-Royce glided to a stop. The door opened slowly, and out stepped a stunning young woman. Graceful, beautiful, a vision. The crowd gasped. "Who is she?" "Wow, Desmond chose well this time. She's perfect." People clapped. They praised him for making a better choice. No one realized this was Clara. Months ago, Desmond had quietly taken her away, far from the noise, the insults, the pain. He had sent her abroad to study, to heal, to rest, while he stayed behind, facing the storm alone. Now, here she was, walking into her wedding. The same woman they had mocked, the same woman they had called a gold digger, but transformed, stronger, untouchable. When Desmond finally spoke, his voice carried across the hall.
This is Clara, the woman I chose then, the woman I choose now, and the woman I will always choose. Silence. Then shock. His mother's smile froze. His sister's eyes widened. Everyone lowered their heads. But suddenly his mother stood. Her voice was sharp. Lies! She took money from me. I gave her money to leave you, and she accepted it. She already sold your love. Gasps filled the hall. Eyes turned to Clara. Whispers broke out again. But Desmond only smiled, calm, confident. He said, I know, his voice steady. She brought that money to me. She didn't refuse it because she didn't want you to try something worse. Clara protected us even then. That money has been sitting in my safe all this time. The hall fell silent. His mother staggered, nearly fainting. Without another word, she left the hall. Clara's eyes glistened with tears, but Desmond took her hand and kissed it gently. She never betrayed me. She only protected what we had. The wedding continued. Their ceremony was grand, beautiful, unforgettable. The city celebrated their love. And later that night, in the quiet garden of their mansion, the two of them sat side by side, fingers interlocked, eyes full of gratitude. They looked at how far they had come. Every tear, every insult, every night of doubt had brought them here. Desmond kissed her hand and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up." Clara smiled softly. "No, thank you for fighting for me." And there, under the stars, they promised one thing. Never again would they let the world decide their love.